Alistair, 2 seconds. Where are we today in the ever-expanding Zambo world? Where are we, Alistair?
Falkirk Trinity Church.
Falkirk Trinity Church. Now, Alistair, these things look very, very weather-beaten. What's the story behind
The story behind these? These are funeral effigies. They would originally have been horizontal on top of tombs.
Okay.
And they are some of the early lords and ladies of Callander, who were the local aristocrats. These two are Tudor, and you can tell that by the woman's headdress. You can see, and it's believed that they were amongst a group of guardians of Mary Queen of Scots, who of course was born just along the road in Linlithgow. Some of the details still there in terms of...
Alistair, can I interject here? Tudor, can you fill me in, because these are sandstone.
These are sandstone.
That means it must have taken an awful long time for them to be worn down. When was the Tudor period, do you know?
The Tudor period would be the 1560s, 1580s.
So these things are approaching 500 years old?
Yeah.
Half a million.
Yeah, but there's probably, because if you look, there are some surprising bits of detail. So I don't know if you can pick up, but on his belt...
Would that a scabbard for a sword or something?
Probably, or just what they call the girdle, which was a belt. And, but there's still detail there, and there's still incredible detail in the folds of her gown.
Again, I presume these were outside?
Well, I was about to say, so pre-Reformation, there was a big pre-Reformation church here,
okay.
And part of it, one transept, was the private chapel of the Callanders.
The Callanders, so the local nobility in this area?
Aristocrats, so their tombs would have been there. Now, enter the Reformation.
Oh, so you're going to be on my YouTube channel. Enter the Reformation.
Enter the Reformation. So people think that ISIS invented hammering the faces off statues. No, they didn't.
Oh, the Protestant Reformation didn't want any icons?
No idolatry. So,
do you think they've actually been vandalised?
Yeah.
They have?
There's no proof, but the fact there is still some detail, but they have no faces.
The faces. Alistair, shake a hand, make a friend.
All right.
Right, now we spent a bit of time on the Callander family, who I didn't realise were the nobility in the local Falkirk area. Take me somewhere else and show me something else so fantastic.
Right.
We also, I've not got a lot of memory in the phone, so I want to show my 35 YouTube followers just how amazing this... well, not even that, Alistair, that show outside of the building, because you said some parts of it dated back to...
1450.
The 1450s, which was over half a millennia old.
Yeah.
And
down here,
there was a monastery originally on the site.
Yeah, so monasteries, you still taping?
Yeah, absolutely.
Monasteries, you've all seen Robin Hood movies,
okay.
And the baddies or the rustlers or whatever are running away, and they get to a monastery and they claim sanctuary.
That's right, yeah.
Right, so this is a sanctuary cross.
Okay.
So the lands round the monastery would have been marked with crosses at the 4 points of the compass.
And that's where the...
So they were safe if they got into that bit of land and they could claim sanctuary. Interestingly enough, they probably still got hung, but they got a wee bit of due process first. So this is a sanctuary cross, and this has been dated to circa 1200.
So this is going back 800 years?
Yes, I've got my hand.
Now, would we call this a Celtic cross?
Yes.
Yes, we would call it a Celtic cross.
Yeah, I can see it, and it's still got detail on it.
Right, this is fantastic. Let's take my 35 YouTube followers outside, we can have a look at the actual building itself.
So,
or should we stick one of those in the auditorium?
We'll go into this door and out the next door.
My phone's notorious for...
As well as being a church, we're an auditorium.
Well, we put some sound equipment in here today, and I must say this room sounds absolutely fantastic at the order. These things were generally designed for choirs and pipe organs, weren't they?
Yes.
So this part of the building, Alistair...
This part of the building's 1811.
1811, so this is contemporary, more or less.
Yeah, more or less contemporary. And there's lots...
Barely 2 seconds. YouTube are terrible for taking videos down if there's any music on the background.
We've not got time to get into it today, but people come from all over to see these two windows.
Okie doke.
Right. These are very good
stained glass windows.
Stained glass windows from the... I've forgotten the word now.
Don't worry about that at all. As I say, my phone...
The arts and crafts period. The arts and crafts period.
My phone is notorious for cutting out, and I always hit the wrong button and end up deleting the videos halfway through. So my 35 YouTube followers know to expect us. So wait to see the outside of this one.
So this bit here, we're actually in the footprint of the square tower. So this actual structure, not the way it is now, dates back to 1450. And
So
this is in the centre of the pre-Reformation church. So the high altar would have been here, and you did 4 transepts.
Now, a transept.
So like you go to a big cathedral and there's bits that stick out.
Okay.
It's a transept, so there have been north transept, east transept.
They were generally built in the shape of a cross as well?
Yes, with the altar in the centre. So, and the only bit that's left, if you imagine the scale, this is one of the original
The columns?
columns, so that would have gone up maybe twice as high as this arch.
Okay.
Yeah, and there would have been a great big arch ceiling here.
You don't know the population of Falkirk at this time, do you, Alistair?
Very little, because the church predates the town.
Now, again, I didn't know what to expect of Falkirk. It's only 25 miles along the road from Glasgow, but I've been very pleasantly surprised. There are some hideous modern carbuncles, but they have kept an awful lot of their Victorian
We also have some lovely modern bits in the Kelpies and the Falkirk.
Well, the Kelpies actually did a video on the Kelpies a little while ago. So
there's some famous tombs here. This is
you told me about the... Right, you tell me that story again, Alistair.
So this is the tomb of Sir John de Graham, who was one of the knights that fought with William Wallace at the Battle of Falkirk. Fought and died. Yeah.
So he's actually in this tomb just now?
If you look at the side, you'll see there's lots of layers, because different generations...
It's a family tomb?
No, generations have fancied it up. So the original tomb,
there's a bit down the
there's a
bottom.
bit of an effigy there, is down at the bottom.
This is fascinating
And
stuff.
this structure was all added by the Victorians.
How's your Latin?
Not very good. What's interesting though is that Robert Burns in his travels visited here.
Robert Burns has been here as well. We've got William Wallace, we've got Robert Burns. I mean, it's all good down in Falkirk.
This is a quote from Burns. This morning I knelt at the tomb of Sir John de Graham, the gallant friend of the immortal Wallace. And that was Robert Burns when he visited here in 1780.
So Burns was here in
1787.
26th of August 1787. Now I'm going to do a quick scan of this place because it's breathtaking, absolutely stunning old building.
The square tower.
Right, so the square tower.
The square tower is the 1450 bit.
Right.
If you look halfway down the square tower, you can see the mark of a gable end.
Okay, doke.
That's where one of the
The
transepts
transept
would have been.
that would have come out along
So
that
you
way.
can see the size of the church. It was a big
church for its time, yeah.
You know, so
Oh, is there any history of Freemasonry or anything, do you know, in the building?
it's not directly, but this tomb, this building here, is the Zetland mausoleum. So the Earls of Zetland, who more or less built Grangemouth,
right,
and the later generations invented the canals. That's their family mausoleum. And it's got a slightly grander entrance round this side.
It's very well weathered, Alistair, isn't it?
It's not the best of nick.
What do you think that's because the industry in Scotland, perhaps we had issues with acidic rain and stuff like that? Or is it just the nature of sandstone?
I think it's just the nature of sandstone, and it's, you know, some of the buildings were very neglected. That has been very neglected, I have to say. This tomb here is very interesting. This is another knight that fought with Wallace. This is
another knight that fought with William Wallace.
And this guy's very significant because he's Sir John Stewart of Monkhill, and he was the cousin of the High Stewart of Scotland. And this guy ran an army called the Men of Bute, which was an army that was raised for Wallace from Bute and Argyll, and there were 600 of them. This guy got killed early in the battle. They wouldn't leave his side. They were wiped out to a man.
Wiped out to a man.
600 men.
Alistair, I hate to say this, we are now at 9 minutes. This could have went on for 29 minutes. We've got 34 seconds to say.
34 seconds. Just round the corner, that great big cross over there was raised by the 3rd Marquess of Bute in memory of the men of Bute who fell at Falkirk.
The only thing left to say is, could you say, I'm going to say thanks to Alistair, and could you say bye-bye YouTube?
Okay, bye-bye YouTube.
Right, thank you so much. Oh, we could have made a 20 minute.